One time I was invited to speak at Kenyatta University in Nairobi to about 3,000 students in this state-of-the-art auditorium. And it was a great honor for me. I was invited by Madam Olive Mugenda, who was the Vice Chancellor then. I remember my co-speaker was James Moria, the CEO of Centum Investment, and the third speaker was Margaret Kobia, who is a cabinet secretary in Uhuru Kenyatta's government, and we were the three speakers there with 3,000 students, honored to be hosted by Madam Olive Mugenda, a woman that I have a lot of respect of because of the transformational leadership she had during her tenure at Kenyatta University, just transforming that institution from an ordinary university to a university that became reputable and respected. When Barack Obama came to Kenya, he had the pleasure of giving a lecture at the university. I stood there in front of the student and told the student and my host, I say, Madam Mugenda, I know education is the foundation of any modern society, but I believe there is something bigger and more important and more critical than education, and that is called exposure. I say exposure is more powerful than education. Between exposure and education, if my son has to choose one of them, I say, I would rather have my son exposed and not educated than educated and not exposed. But if need be, and if I have options for both worlds, I will have my son both exposed and educated. Because sometimes people are so educated but not exposed, and their worldview is so limited. But then you have people who are so exposed and not educated. The good thing is that within exposure, there is an element of education. I remember one time in the Masai Mara in Kenya, I was speaking to about 500 entrepreneurs from the business club of Barclays, the former Barclays Bank, which is ABSA now. And as I spoke to this entrepreneur in this boot camp at the park, and when I finished questions and answer sessions, an old man comes and says, Pepe, I'm so challenged and stimulated by your talk, young man. I think I better go back to school and get my degree or my MBA. And I told the old man, I said, at 60-something, if I were you, I would take the tuition fee and travel the world and get exposed to different way of doing things, to different civilization and culture and people and trend and patterns. By the time I'm back in Nairobi, I am far much better than 10 MBAs degree holders. There is power in exposure. How come that idiot is rich and I am not? The idiot is exposed. He's exposed to several ways of thinking. He's exposed to different kinds of people. He's exposed to different patterns and paths into negotiation and problem solving and many other things that really makes a difference in our day-to-day life. There's a gentleman called Mark McCormack in 1984. Mark McCormack interacted with students from Harvard, and he saw potential in some of these students where they were still in the lecture room. They could crack numbers, they understood analytics, the intelligence. You could tell that this was a material for C-suite. This was a material for national leadership. But about 15, 20 years later, he met the same fellows, and the kind of jobs they did, and the kind of the positions they held, and the kind of lives they lived, McCormack could not believe. Then he came to realize there were people of lesser IQ and lesser acumen than those who did so well for themselves in life. And having interacted with both groups, two sets of people, those who show a lot of promise in school at Harvard, but ended up not to be what people thought they would become. And those who show little promise, but later on became street smarts and achieved potential and became self-actualized. Then he wrote a book, What They Don't Teach You at Harvard Business School. He said, at Harvard, they teach you numbers, they teach you analytics, you understand data, you understand a lot of patterns and a lot of stuff. But there are things like wits, like guts, like intuition. There are things like perspective, like common sense, that they don't teach you. Just a simple way of doing things. Like in that book, How Come That Idiot Is Rich and I Am Not? Some of the things they do not teach you in the lecture room are the very things that makes people significant in life. He realized that being street smart was far much better than just being book smart. 5 years later, in 1989, he wrote a follow-up book of his first book, What They Don't Teach You at Harvard Business School. And this one was titled, What They Still Don't Teach You at Harvard Business School. Because he realized that some of the people that became captains of industries, yes, some of them came from Harvard, but majority of them came from the street side of Harvard, not the lecture room side of Harvard. Now guess what? About 27 years later, in 2017, a book authored by Joe Reeves, based on the teachings and coaching and philosophy of Mark Cormack, was published and became a New York Times bestseller, and it was titled Beyond Harvard, with the Mark Cormack name at the bottom. So a 3-series book, What They Don't Teach You at Harvard Business School, What They Still Don't Teach You at Harvard Business School, and Beyond Harvard. Beyond Makerere University, beyond Nairobi University, beyond Strathmore University, beyond Oxford University. Have you ever wondered and asked yourself a question, how in the world this person became my boss? Have you ever wondered, your group CEO, in school they couldn't do what you did? They didn't belong to the prestigious club you belonged to, but they were street smart. They colored outside the lines. They played beyond the box, and they became what they became. So looking at the book, How Come That Idiot Is Rich and I Am Not? And looking at the book, What They Don't Teach You at Harvard Business School, and What They Still Don't Teach You at Harvard Business School, and Beyond Harvard, it tells you the real developments comes beyond the traditional boundaries of formal education. You may need to be street smart. They don't teach you emotional intelligence. They don't teach you people skills. They don't teach you how to read people, how to read pattern, how to read opportunity, and how to respond and take advantage. And that's what makes the big difference. That's what McCormack meant. They say Lionel Messi is not just a very skilled footballer. He's one of the most talented footballers of our time. But what makes Lionel Messi very different is not just his intelligence in the field, but it is his ability to read the game. If he's playing in the central and the game begins 15 minutes later, he's able to read the pattern, he's able to read the other players, and he's able to read the competition, and he tells the coach, I don't want to play here, let me play at the back in midfield, or let me play at the wing. He's able to read the game. How many of us are able to read the patterns of our career, the patterns of our time, the opportunities at the workplace, the opportunities in the community, in the industry? So that's exactly what I meant. What they don't teach you, what they don't still teach you, and beyond Harvard. So personal development is something that you may need to consider. The Pepe Minambo TV YouTube channel is all about personal development. So subscribe to this channel, press the notification button, ring the bell, so that you and I, we can journey together into this land of self-actualization through personal development.